Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to be talking about the M4a4 versus the M4a1-s, which you should be using and when. Because I think a lot of people have problems with this, and particularly a lot of people don't recognize that you can actually switch between the two guns based on the position you're playing and the map you're playing. So going right into it, the M4a1-s has three major differences from the M4a4 that everybody, of course, knows. First of all, you can see it's got a tighter spread pattern, which means any competent player should feel comfortable getting a very tight spread pattern here with the M4a1-s. Whereas with the M4a4, you're going to see the spread pattern is a little bit larger. However, you can see within 20 bullets, it's very similar to the M4a1-s. It's just after 20 bullets that it heads back in the other direction, which pretty much means that you should feel comfortable actually spraying fairly similarly in a spread pattern to the M4a1-s. Now, of course, two major advantages the M4a1-s has is that it's very, very silent, and it's only got 20 bullets, right? So what this means is that the M4a1-s is the more aggressive of the two guns, because when you are being aggressive, if you are being correctly aggressive and not just running out in the middle of the open consistently, you should almost always be near a corner, and you should almost always be running into only one or two opponents, as well as hopefully, if you play your aggression right, you should be coming up beside or behind people a lot more often than if you're playing passively, of course, which means that the silent sound signature of the M4a1-s means people are going to have that millisecond where they're not 100% sure where they're being shot at from, and it can give you a very slight but very noticeable advantage over using the M4a4, especially if you're shooting at one guy and his teammate is trying to turn around. That's where you can really notice the difference in the sound signature. Now, the M4a4, contrary to the M4a1-s, is going to be the more passive of the two guns. You want to use this where you're holding a sight solo or with a teammate and you really just have to frag out. And the best example of this is going to be a sight on DE Mirage. Now, there are quite a few positions in maps where I think the M4a4 is useful. For example, Squeaky on Nuke. However, I think Mirage A-Sight is the perfect example of a place where the M4a4 is the gun you want to be using. The reason for this is because you can't really push into Palace. This is a weak angle. You also can't really push Ramp. So you're stuck on A-Sight here, playing it very passively. And what you're usually going to be doing is in a setup where you play one towards sight and one towards either CT or towards stairs. Now, either of those positions are going to be positions that are going to get smoked off the vast majority of the time. And that's going to end up with you, if you are playing towards sight, generally being all alone in sight, and all you have to do and all you can do is frag out, possibly with a flash as support from one of your teammates if he wants to throw a flash like that, or something like that. You're going to be stuck in one of four positions, either below balcony, on balcony, sight boxes, or tri-stack. Now, all four of these positions are spots where they're going to be 4 or 5 man rushing you. They're going to be running immediately directly into sight with a few flashes, basically just trying to trade kills on you, especially if you're playing under balcony, which is actually the most common spot on this map. They're going to be running 2 or 3 people around this corner, and they're basically just going to be trying their very best to trade a frag on you. And if you have an M4a1-s, you are basically doomed. You have to accept here that with either gun, you are not going to be reloading. If they are straight rushing a site here on Mirage, you're not going to be reloading. You need to be fragging out as much as possible, and especially with the M4a1-s, if you get into a spray war, especially in a position like this, you're maximum getting 1 kill before you have to reload, and as soon as you reload, people are going to be running around this corner, so you're going to get a reload off, but you're going to be stuck in this corner, and you're basically going to have to hit an insanely nice shot to actually survive. So the problem is that with the M4a1-s, you just don't have the bullets in your clip to be able to actually frag out. Now, the other thing is, when you're playing passively, the opposing team is going to be checking your angle. They're not going to be weirdly caught off guard by you where the silencer actually matters. What's going to happen is they're going to peek your angle, you're going to try and win the gunfight, and they're going to try and win that gunfight on you. So there's no real upside to having that silent noise from the M4a1-s. All that really matters in that regard is that it's got less bullets and it's got a more tight spray pattern. However, like I said, especially from this sort of range, the spray pattern patterns should be generally fairly easy to land either way. So this is just one example of a map where I think it's very good to use the M4a4. Other examples could be, like I said, Squeaky on Nuke, as well as if you play aggressive Cat on Dust 2, I think it's fairly good as well. And there are quite a few other spots if you just think about it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.